The gun was shaking in Josslyn Jack's hand, and it was pointed straight at her own mother. For a long moment the room was frozen in silence. Carly Spencer stood in the doorway of her own attic, staring at the daughter she loved more than anything. And behind Josslyn, tied to a chair with a cord, was Valentin Cassadine. Bruised, struggling, and very much a prisoner. Josslyn's voice came out sharp and cold. "Don't move." Carly slowly raised her hands, her heart pounding. For a split second she wondered if this moment had finally come, if the secrets between them had pushed her daughter too far. "Are you going to shoot your own mother?" Carly asked quietly. Josslyn didn't answer right away. Her eyes were blazing with anger, but also something deeper, something darker. Because the truth was, this wasn't just about Valentin. This was about everything. And in the next few minutes, Josslyn would confess something that could change the entire future of Port Charles forever. But Carly had no idea just how explosive the truth really was. And the worst part, Josslyn was only just getting started. Just moments earlier, the attic had turned into a battlefield. When Josslyn first discovered Valentin hiding there, she hadn't hesitated. She moved fast. Before Valentin even realized what was happening, Joss had him pinned against a chair. Valentin tried to talk his way out of it, flashing that familiar charming smile. But Joss wasn't in the mood. Not tonight. She shoved him back hard, tying his hands with a cord she found nearby. Valentin grunted as the rope tightened. "You're making a mistake," he warned. But Josslyn leaned closer, her voice low and dangerous. "No," she said. "You are." And then Carly walked in. The moment she saw Valentin tied up, Carly froze. But what stunned her even more was seeing Josslyn standing there with a gun. The tension in the room instantly became unbearable. For a second, Carly thought something had gone terribly wrong. But when Josslyn turned the gun toward her, that's when everything changed. Back in the kitchen moments later, mother and daughter faced each other across the room. The gun was gone now. But the tension between them was even worse. Carly leaned against the counter, trying to stay calm. Josslyn, however, looked like a storm about to explode. "You've been hiding him," Josslyn demanded. Carly sighed. "Yes." No hesitation, no excuses. Just the truth. But that answer only made Josslyn angrier. "Why?" she snapped. "Why would you risk everything for Valentin Cassadine?" Carly took a slow breath. Because the answer was complicated. And deeply personal. "This was about you," Carly finally admitted. Josslyn blinked. "What?" Carly stepped closer. "I was trying to get you out of the WSB." For a moment the words just hung in the air. Then Josslyn laughed. But there was nothing funny about it. "You committed a crime for that," Joss said in disbelief. Carly's eyes softened. "I was trying to protect you." But Josslyn's patience was gone. "You don't get it," she snapped. "This is my job." And that's when another secret exploded into the room. Because Carly finally admitted something she had been hiding for months. "I've known about your WSB status for a while." Josslyn's eyes widened. "How long?" Carly hesitated. "Months." The silence that followed was heavy. And then Josslyn figured it out. There was only one person who could have told Carly. "Jason," she said. Carly didn't deny it. And Josslyn shook her head in frustration. "You had no right," she muttered. But Carly wasn't backing down. "You had no right to lie to me either," Carly shot back. Josslyn crossed her arms. "That's part of the job." The tension between them was boiling over now. But Carly still didn't know the worst part. Not yet. Because Josslyn had been hiding something far darker. And finally she said it out loud. Josslyn took a deep breath. "I found Cyrus Renault." Carly's expression instantly changed. Every muscle in her body went tense. "You what?" Josslyn's voice stayed calm. "It was part of a test." "A test," Carly repeated. "From Jack Brennan's." The room seemed to shrink around them. Carly already had a bad feeling about where this was going. And she was right. Because Josslyn continued. "I tracked Cyrus down. Carly swallowed hard. Then what? Josslyn looked directly into her mother's eyes. He tried to kill me. A long pause followed. Then Josslyn finished the sentence. So I killed him first. Carly's breath caught in her throat. For a moment she couldn't even speak. Her daughter had taken another life. And the way Josslyn said it. So calm, so controlled. It terrified her. But Josslyn wasn't finished. Because the next confession hit even harder. I've killed again since then, she said quietly. Carly stared at her. What? Josslyn shrugged slightly. It comes with the territory. That sentence chilled the entire room. Carly felt like the ground had just disappeared beneath her feet. This wasn't the daughter she knew. This was someone else. Someone hardened by the life she had chosen. And Carly suddenly realized something horrifying. She might already be too late to save her. But Josslyn wasn't here to be saved. In fact, she believed she was the one trying to save everyone else. Including her own mother's. Why are you still doing this? Carly asked desperately. You already got justice for Dex. The pain flickered across Josslyn's face for a split second. Dex Heller. The man she loved. The man who died. But the sadness quickly turned into anger. This isn't about Dex anymore, Josslyn said. Then what is it about? Carly asked. Josslyn stepped forward. Her voice suddenly burning with fury. This is about Sonny Corinthos. Carly froze. There it was. The name that changed everything. Josslyn's eyes filled with rage as she continued. All the destruction, she said. All the violence. All the lives ruined because of men like him. Carly immediately shook her head. Stop. But Josslyn wasn't stopping. I'm done pretending he's some hero, she snapped. Carly's voice hardened. He's your stepfather. No, Josslyn shot back. He's a criminal. The words hit like a bomb. And Josslyn leaned closer. I'm going to take him down. Carly stared at her in shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. But Josslyn wasn't finished with the threats. Because now she turned back to the attic. To Valentin's. You have 24 hours, Josslyn told her mother. Carly frowned. For what? To get Valentin out of this house. Her tone was deadly serious. And if you do. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Because Carly could already feel the storm coming. And as Josslyn walked out the door, the silence she left behind was terrifying. But upstairs, something unexpected was already happening. And it was about to change everything again. Because Valentin Cassadine was no longer tied to that chair. Upstairs in the attic, the silence felt almost eerie after Josslyn stormed out. For several long seconds, nothing moved. Then Valentin Cassadine slowly lifted his head. The rope around his wrists had looked tight. Josslyn had been careful. She had pulled the cord hard enough to leave red marks on his skin. But Valentin had spent his entire life escaping impossible situations. And this was far from impossible. With a quiet exhale, he twisted his wrists again. The cord loosened just enough. Another pull. Another shift. And suddenly, his hands slipped free. Valentin sat there for a moment, rubbing his wrists, thinking about what had just happened downstairs. Josslyn Jax had changed. Not just angry. Not just reckless. Dangerous. And Valentin knew something else too. The war inside the Corinthos family had officially begun. He stood slowly, grabbing the duffel bag he had packed earlier. Because if Josslyn meant what she said, this house was no longer safe. But before he could leave, he paused. Something made him hesitate. Because downstairs, Carly Spencer was still standing there alone. And the look on her face when Josslyn walked out. It was something Valentin couldn't forget. So instead of leaving quietly, Valentin walked down the stairs. In the kitchen, Carly hadn't moved. Her mind was spinning. Josslyn's words echoed over and over again in her head. I killed him. I've killed again. I'm going to bring Sonny down. Each sentence hit harder than the last. Carly had always known Josslyn was strong. But this was something else entirely. A darkness Carly never wanted for her daughter. And worst of all, Carly realized she might have helped push Josslyn toward it. The soft sound of footsteps pulled Carly out of her thoughts. She turned and saw Valentin standing there. Free. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Valentin gently placed a hand on Carly's shoulder. The simple gesture carried so much emotion. Concern. Understanding. And maybe even a little guilt. Because Valentin knew his presence in Carly's life had just created another crack between her and her daughter. Carly looked up at him, her eyes filled with exhaustion. She hates me right now, Carly whispered. Valentin shook his head slightly. No, he said softly. She's afraid. Carly looked confused. Afraid of what? Valentin's answer came quickly. Of becoming someone she doesn't recognize. That thought lingered between them. Because deep down Carly knew Valentin might be right. Across town the mood was very different. In the apartment above Charlie's pub, Sonny Corinthos sat across from Ada Justine Turner. A bottle of scotch rested between them. The room still carried the warmth of what had happened earlier. Because just a short while ago, Sonny and Justine had crossed a line neither of them planned to cross. And they both knew it. Justine swirled the scotch in her glass. You know this can't keep happening, she said. Sonny nodded slowly. I know, but neither of them looked convinced. They took a sip of the scotch in silence. Then Justine sighed. It was a mistake. Sonny raised an eyebrow. Was it? Justine hesitated. Because the truth was it hadn't felt like a mistake. Not in the moment. Not when the tension between them finally exploded. But Sonny Corinthos was one of the most powerful men in Port Charles. And Justine Turner was supposed to prosecute people like him. Which meant their connection was more than risky. It was dangerous. We scratched the itch, Justine said firmly. That's it. Sonny studied her carefully. Right, he replied. But the playful look in his eyes told a very different story. And Justine noticed it immediately. Because despite their words, the chemistry between them was still burning. And something told them both. This was far from over. Meanwhile, at Corinthos Coffee, another intense conversation was unfolding. Jason Morgan sat across from Jack Brennan. And Brennan was asking questions. A lot of questions. So, Brennan said casually, tell me about your meeting with Ross Cullum. Jason remained calm. But Brennan wasn't fooled. I'm just trying to protect Josslyn, Brennan added. Jason's expression barely changed. But Brennan kept pushing. You should also know, Brennan continued, I was the one who made the FBI's evidence against Carly disappear. That finally got Jason's attention. Jason looked at him carefully. You expect me to thank you? Brennan shrugged. Just saying you owe me. Jason didn't respond. Instead, he leaned back and finally answered Brennan's earlier question. Cullum asked about Britt Westbourne. Brennan's eyes narrowed slightly. And Jason hesitated. He asked about the 5 poppies. Brennan leaned forward now. And your connection to Britt. Jason didn't say anything. But the silence said plenty. Before Brennan could ask another question, Jason's phone buzzed. He glanced down. A coded message. From Britt. Jason quickly typed a coded response back. He tried to steer her away. Tried to stop her from coming. But Britt Westbourne had already made up her mind. Because just minutes later, she walked through the door. By the time she arrived, Brennan had already left. Britt approached Jason, her face pale. Hey, she said quietly. Jason immediately noticed something was wrong. What happened? Britt's voice cracked. I lost a patient. For a moment, the confident, sarcastic Britt everyone knew disappeared. All that remained was a doctor grieving someone she couldn't save. Jason stood up slowly. You did everything you could. Britt shook her head. That's what everyone says. Jason gently placed a hand on her shoulder. And for the first time that night, Britt allowed herself to lean on someone. Over at General Hospital, another emotional story was unfolding. Brooklyn Quartermain sat at a desk surrounded by paperwork. But every form only reminded her of the same problem. She barely knew anything about the woman who had been brought in. Delilah, a mysterious patient. And now, her baby had no identity. Just a temporary name. Baby Jane Doe. Brooklyn rubbed her forehead in frustration. How am I supposed to fill this out, she muttered. Just then Nathan West walked into the room. I might have something, he said. Brooklyn and Chase both looked up. Nathan pulled out his phone. We found an expensive handbag near where Delilah was discovered. Brooklyn's eyes lit up. ID. Nathan shook his head. Nothing. But he quickly explained the steps police would take to track the owner. Still, Nathan couldn't shake a strange feeling. This whole thing doesn't sit right with me, he admitted. Chase frowned. You think she was mugged? Nathan shook his head slowly. No, something about the situation felt off. But before they could discuss it further, Brooklyn's attention shifted. Right now, she said softly, that baby doesn't even have a name. Chase looked at his wife gently. What would you call her? Brooklyn blinked. I don't know, she admitted. Then she smiled faintly. I'd have to see her first. Chase stood up. Then let's go. A few minutes later, they stood outside the NICU window. Inside, baby Jane Doe slept peacefully. So small. So innocent. Brooklyn's expression softened. She's beautiful, she whispered. Chase nodded. We'll find her family. Then he added something that warmed Brooklyn's heart. But until then, she has us. Elsewhere at the hospital, another complicated relationship was reaching a breaking point. Felicia Scorpio had just witnessed something shocking. Lulu Spencer kissing Nathan West. Felicia confronted Lulu almost immediately. What are you doing? Felicia demanded. Lulu sighed. This isn't like before. Felicia frowned. You mean 7 years ago? Lulu nodded. Back then things were different. But Felicia wasn't convinced. Maxie is your best friend. Lulu's expression turned serious. If Maxie had chosen Nathan when she woke up from her coma, none of this would be happening. Felicia crossed her arms. But she didn't. Maxie chose Spinelli. Still, that didn't make this situation any less painful. Felicia shook her head. You really think you can have both? Lulu looked confused. Both what? Your best friend and your best friend's husband. The words hung heavy in the air. Because deep down Lulu feared Felicia might be right. I'm going to tell Maxie, Lulu said quietly. Felicia raised an eyebrow. Soon. But even Lulu didn't sound completely sure. Because she knew the truth. Confessing everything could destroy the most important friendship in her life. Later that evening, Nathan met up with Lulu again. The first thing she told him. Felicia saw us. Nathan groaned. That's not good. Lulu nodded. But despite everything, she still held his hand. I'm not running away from this, she said. Nathan studied her carefully. You're sure? Lulu took a deep breath. I'm telling Maxie the truth. But even as she said it, fear flickered across her face. Because once that truth came out, nothing in their lives would ever be the same again. Back at Carly's house, the night had grown quiet. Too quiet. Carly stood alone in the kitchen, thinking about Josslyn's ultimatum. 24 hours. That was all the time she had. 24 hours to choose between protecting Valentin or repairing the damage with her daughter. And somewhere out there, Josslyn was preparing for something far bigger. Something far more dangerous. A mission that could bring Sonny Corinthos down. But the real question is this. Is Josslyn truly fighting for justice? Or is she walking down a path that will destroy everything she loves? And if she really tries to take Sonny down, who will stand in her way? Carly, Jason, or Sonny himself? Because in Port Charles, family wars never end quietly. And this one might become the most explosive yet. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Do you think Josslyn is right to target Sonny after everything that has happened? Or do you believe she's crossing a dangerous line she may never come back from? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy daily General Hospital updates, spoilers and deep dives into Port Charles drama, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next twist.